All right, guys, so I was talking to Glenn Greenwald earlier about whether this was a fascist administration or not, and we certainly had a performance of fascism in LA Park that unfolded yesterday. Let's go ahead and put these images up on the screen of heavily armed, military kitted out immigration agents, including some on horseback. You can see these sort of fortified vehicles rolling through the streets, sweeping through the park in what appears to have been, and Ken Klippenstein was able to get leaked documents as to the purpose of this operation, appears to have been a show of force to demonstrate to LA and to other cities and localities around the country that they can operate effectively with impunity wherever and whenever they want. Mayor Karen Bass of LA came down to that park to confront agents and try to get them to leave. Let's go ahead and take a look at how that unfolded, sort of a chaotic scene where she asked to talk to their boss and to tell them they needed to move on. Let's take a listen.
My comment is they need to leave, and they need to leave right now. They need to leave because this is unacceptable.
Who did you speak
Just
with?
wait and see.
Mayor Bass,
They will be leaving soon.
Mayor Bass, who did you speak with on the phone just now?
Unknown at this time whether they actually even made any arrests or whether it was purely just, hey, let's march through this park and show how big and bad we are for the cameras. You can put the LA Times reporting up on the screen here of the way they covered it. Their headline is, heavily armed immigration agents descend on MacArthur Park in LA. They say dozens of immigration agents, some on horseback, others carrying rifles in armored vehicles, swept through MacArthur Park on Monday in an extraordinary show of force at the heart of LA's immigrant community. Heavily armored Border Patrol officers with a fleet of white minibuses partially blocked the streets surrounding the park, which has become a source of crime and drugs in the area in the last few years. Activists with megaphones were able to warn locals at the park before the contingent arrived, according to police sources. The move comes days after President Trump signed a budget that will provide a mass infusion of funds to the Department of Homeland Security to ramp up its immigration enforcement to levels unseen before in the United States. LA has become the poster child of Trump's mass deportations plan, as more than 1,600 people have been arrested between June 6th and June 22nd. Go ahead and put Ken Klippenstein's report here up on the screen because he actually got the leaked documents of what this operation was truly intended to do. Great reporting here from Ken. So he says, exclusive Operation Excalibur in LA was a show of force. Leaks from the military's LA deployment reveal Coca-Cola versus Pepsi rivalry, sweaty guardsmen, and abject failure. He goes on to write that today's Homeland Security operation was a mere show of presence. Internal Army documents I've obtained say ICE and customs agents dressed in military garb assaulted the park, which the documents describe as a hotbed of historic lawlessness and the founding location of MS-13, the Salvadoran gang. News media is describing the operation as an ominous crackdown, but National Guard sources tell me it was a botched laughingstock. The military aspect of the operation, codenamed Operation Excalibur, has not been previously reported. And there were some 8 different, I believe, federal government agencies. Let me see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different agencies that were involved in this show of force in this LA park. They were all codenamed different colas. That's why he says the Coca-Cola versus Pepsi rivalry. So the ATF was A&W, the CBP was Canada Dry. You had the FBI was Coke, and the LAPD was Pepsi. So this mass operation to march through the park, and as I said before, effectively like demonstrate fascism for the cameras. You guys likely know the context and the backstory here. As was indicated in the LA Times article, LA has really become their sort of demonstration project of what mass deportation looks like. They love the fight with LA because you've got Karen Bass, the Democratic mayor, you've got Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and you had those anti-ICE protests, which turned, violent at times with some throwing of water bottles at police officers, some torching of Waymo cars, some graffiti. That is all over, but they use as a pretext to call up thousands of National Guardsmen in a very legally dubious, by the way, operation. And so they federalized the National Guard in California. Absolutely extraordinary action that we've just sort of like moved past because it's been so crazy, everything else that has been going on. And not only that, not only did they federalize the National Guard, they also called up active duty Marines to come in to LA to deal with what ultimately was pretty run-of-the-mill protests. Those National Guardsmen, at least, I'm not sure about the Marines, they are still there. They're still there instead of doing any of the many other things that they could be doing, including continuing the recovery from the horrific fires that you had in and around LA. So this is some of what they're doing with them. Mass show of force in a planning these operations. And according to Ken, many of the National Guardsmen that he was in contact with are humiliated by it. They say this is an embarrassment. Like, this is not the way that we're supposed to be operating. There was also, some indication that, maybe they would have the National Guardsmen start to cover their face and mask in the same way that the ICE agents have, which has contributed to the sense of rogue lawlessness of that agency. Oftentimes they show up in plain clothes, completely masked, looks like a kidnapping, indistinguishable. They won't identify themselves, sometimes won't show a warrant, won't indicate what law enforcement agency they're with, etc. So they wanted the National Guard to adopt some of those tactics, and apparently there was pushback on that because their view is, we're in the community. We're meant to be here to help and serve our fellow Californians. And when you think about the typical assignments that they'd be receiving, things like helping out with recovery, that's the orientation that they are used to when they're engaging with fellow community members. So absolutely insane, and it does fit with broader plans from this administration as announced by Tom Homan, who is spokesperson for the most aggressive enforcement and most aggressive and cruel tactics that this administration has deployed when it comes to mass deportation. And he's threatening these type of operations everywhere in the country. And with the passage of the funding from the One Big Beautiful Bill, they are going to have the resources to basically do whatever they want. Let's go ahead and play F5 and take a listen to Tom Homan.
President Trump said it 2 weeks ago, we're going to double down, triple down on sanctuary cities. Why? Not because they're a blue city or a blue state, because we know that's where the problem is. So where we're going to send our assets, we're going to send them where the problem is. Sanctuary cities. So I've said it before, we'll flood the zone of sanctuary cities. If they don't let us arrest a bad guy in the county jail, they're going to arrest him in the community. We're going to arrest him at a work site. So we're going to increase community operation. We're going to increase work site enforcement operation. We're going to get the bad guys. So if they don't want to help, get out of the way. We're coming to do it.
We're coming to do it, flood the zone. And what he's saying there about going after immigrants at job sites, it's actually really significant. It has major implications for the distance between their rhetoric about immigrants and the reality of who immigrants are and the type of operations that are being conducted here. Because there has been a Stephen Miller-directed focus on job sites in places like the Home Depot, that means that you have fewer resources actually to go after the genuine criminals, because it's easy to just roll up on a Home Depot. It's a lot more difficult to find and locate and identify gang members who aren't just going to be there hanging out at the Home Depot. So if you're shifting resources towards, we're going to chase down farm workers in the field, we're going to go to the Home Depot, we're going to go to the garment factory, which was another place that they went in LA that helped to kick off those anti-ICE protests. That means you're focused on that regular, most often law-abiding immigrants who, may or may not be documented. There's also been a lot of racial profiling here. You're focused on that, and you are actually not focused on resources on finding and identifying and tracking criminals. So that is the effect of what these policies have really meant. Let's talk a little bit about the ICE funding, which is just, it's hard to wrap your head around the amount of resources that are about to flood into this rogue, lawless agency. Put this up on the screen, comparing the ICE budget. And again, this is not all of immigration enforcement. This is just ICE. $37.5 billion. Now it will be bigger than most of the world's militaries. So rivaling the military here of Canada and coming in significantly above places like Italy, Israel, the Netherlands, Brazil. So you've got a massive budget here. You had one analyst who said, once they get this budget amount into their coffers, over the next 4 years, they're going to have more money than the budgets of the FBI, the DEA, the ATF, the U.S. Marshals, and the Bureau of Prisons combined. This will be the largest, best-funded federal law enforcement agency in the history of this country. They're trying to hire 10,000 ICE agents. And I was just reading yesterday a piece on how we have previous examples, in particular during the Bush administration, of trying to staff up some of these law enforcement agencies really quickly. And what happens is, number one, you get, because you're just trying to take whoever you can, you get huge issues with corruption. Number two, you get huge issues with complete lack of any sort of experience. And number three, think about the type of people who would be applying to do that job of getting kitted out in military gear to march through a park where moments earlier children were playing, and sending people to Alligator Alcatraz or shipping them off to CCOT with no due process. Like, just think to yourself about the type of people that job would apply to, would appeal to. Those are probably not really the ideal people that you want doing what is already, sensitive and intended to be, under the Trump administration, certainly an absolutely cruel job. So that's the direction that we're heading in. This, what we're seeing in this park in LA, what we've seen in LA more broadly, what we've seen with Alligator Alcatraz, with CCOT, with the raids that we've seen across the country, they're just getting started here. And now they're going to have the budget with mass detention facilities built out by private prison contractors, with huge influx of ICE agents, with money to do basically whatever they want to do. This, what we're seeing now, is just the tip of the iceberg. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching today. We are going to have actually a bro show tomorrow, Sagar and Ryan. Sagar will be back from recording with Tucker. Looking forward to seeing how that interview went. I think it dropped this morning, I'm not sure, but I haven't taken a look at it yet. And then be back to me and Sagar on Thursday. So hope everybody has a fantastic day, and I will see you soon.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.